All right. Well, let's get into your first attempt at basic training and a little bit of a setback you had while you were there. So let's talk about it. Just run us through, just your first experience. So turning up, what it was like getting off the bus, and what a typical day was looking like when you started off there.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, I had a fair idea coming into this that it was going to be tough. I knew I would be challenged in a multitude of ways, not just in the physical aspect. Um, I knew that it was one big game also. So I was, somewhat prepared for that. But again, you can be as prepared as possible, but you just don't know how you're going to react until you're there and it's happening and you're kind of running through the motions. So coming into this, I was confident. But that's not to say I knew it was gonna I knew that it was gonna be a challenge, right?
Yes.
But I just didn't think that I would have any issues throughout the process. Um, anyway, we're on that bus. We rock up. When the tone changes in that bus. And I can see why they make us take a bus down to Kapooka. It's a very particular
Experience.
experience. You drive through the gate and it's like the atmosphere instantly changes. You've just watched this little intro video that tells you when you get off the bus, you got to grab your suitcase in your left hand and move best pace onto the parade ground. And sure enough, that's what happened. The corporals started shouting at us and it was game on. Found myself on that parade ground. I was like, all right, let's go. The first 24 hours, as expected, was hectic. The whole experience was hectic, but in saying that, I have not laughed so much on a daily basis as what I did every night back in our lines.
Coping mechanisms.
Coping mechanism. It's the craziest experience ever is the best way to put it. Hey, like just nothing comes close to what you go through, especially in that first kind of 24 to 48 hours, just in terms of like yelling and having to do all these crazy things that just seem so ridiculous when you're on the outside of it. But yeah, it's a real shock to the system, even when you are prepared for it. So that was kind of my intro into it. But I really, fun times. I lucked out really hard with such a good group of people in that platoon. So that definitely made the whole experience a lot easier. That was the start of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So leading up to before you started to struggle a little bit with certain aspects, we'll get into that in a second. But how were you feeling? Like, how far did you get through it, and how were you feeling at that point? Did you feel like I've got this, or?
Yeah, I did. I was definitely challenged along the way, but I was just like, this is fine. Like, I know I can do this. And to be honest, I absolutely loved it. Like, probably a little bit of a weird thing to say, but I absolutely loved the routine of it all. I loved just always having something to be working towards. I loved just being in uniform and the chaos of it all. I really embraced it, and like I said, it was tough, but I didn't feel that there was any problem and that I was going to have anything too dramatic to kind of push through. It just wasn't even a thought in my mind that I wouldn't get through the 3 weeks initially.
What you're talking about there with your like your experience of it's super tough, but you're just like, oh, this is awesome at the same time. That was exactly. So I joined as a reserve. I was only a reserve for a year because when I went to Kapooka as a reservist back in the day in 2006, actually it was end of 2005. I went over like the Chrissy period, so it was 2005-6. But I was the same when I was there. I got there and I was like, this is what I like. I was like, this is so shit, but I need to do this for the rest of my life.
That's what it was like. I was like, I just feel totally in my element. And it was tough. Like our staff, they hammered us in the best way possible. I learned so much from that group of staff that had us. Yeah, the bee stings were good times. Like they were hard, long, tiring days. But like I said, I've also not laughed as much as what I did of a nighttime, thinking about all the things that happened, during the day. And for me, that it actually was a life-changing experience. Without sounding too cheesy, it was, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be, and I'm just meant to be in this space. So,
yeah, definitely, and yeah, those times where you're talking about laughing and stuff. I remember when I marched out, and I've still got the box. I've got a box of stuff where we made little flags and cups and things of just like people's stupid quotes and all sorts of stuff, because it's never ending.
We had a notepad in our room, and every day we would get back to the room and just debrief. So there was 2 girls' rooms in our platoon, and we were opposite each other. And we worked out very quickly between, I think there was 7 of us in total, that we kind of just, it was one thing to work together within our team, like within our room, but then to try and work together as 2 rooms as well, to just make life easier, I suppose. And we really did that. And so one of us kept a notebook, and just every night back at the lines, we would just write down all the funny quotes that was said, different things that happened, different things that people got in trouble for, like that you on the outside looking in, you just think that is ridiculous. But again, never laughed so hard in all my life. And like it was just, you can't put a price on that stuff, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the sort of thing you got to experience to really know.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, how long did you make it through the first time? How far through the course did you make it?
So I made it through 2 out of the 3 weeks.
2 out of the 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would have been killing you. All right. Yeah. What did you struggle with? What was the hardest part for you, and what sort of was that factor that sent you home?
Yeah. So I guess coming into Kapooka for the first time, I knew there was a couple of key gateways that you needed to pass to be successful and get through the other side of Kapooka. First one being fitness. That was just a given. What I didn't realize until I got down there was weapons is actually a pretty important gateway. And then you've got your TCCC, which you complete at the end. But I guess if there are issues with TCCC, because that is at the end of the course, you've essentially done Kapooka anyway. So I guess they have other ways of, retesting you for that. So we got to weapons, and I am generally a pretty tactical, hands-on learner. So even though I've never dealt with weapons in my life, I wasn't worried about it. It was, coming into it, I was just like, yeah, it's just going to be another thing I learn, I adapt and push through. And I guess for me, I didn't realize how intense the delivery of the weapons module was going to be. So that was probably the first point that shocked me a little bit. I did think that the delivery would be a little bit more relaxed in some aspect, just because it is weapons. It's obviously a pretty important part of becoming a soldier. So it was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. And we had in our platoon, we just had a lot of people, I think, that probably did struggle with that module anyway. And unfortunately for me, I think I was just someone who slipped through the cracks because, well, this is the feedback I got afterwards anyway, was because I guess I had been a strong performer in all other aspects leading up until that point. I just kind of didn't get picked up by staff. And unfortunately, during that week, they were a staff member down. So there was just, unfortunately, a few things out of my control that probably just didn't help my situation. So yeah, that was the point that I exited on.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and shattered me.
Yeah. It's I'm sure it would have been a pretty disappointing feeling. Like, at, at what moment did you realize that you were going home? Like, was it on the mound? Or was it, in the lines, or did someone come up and tell you, or what happened there?
Yeah, so I knew I was struggling with weapons. Probably the second day into the module, I knew I was struggling. I had a couple of conversations with my seco, and I knew he was in a situation where his hands were kind of tied as well. I did the best with what I could with you know I guess the time and the knowledge that I did have. But it wasn't. I'm very much like a believer in that. You're playing to the buzzer, so to speak. And I knew I was going to have a couple of attempts at doing the weapons assessment, so I just tried to give it my absolute best up until I knew that I was at that last point where it was, this is your last crack, and if you don't get through, then unfortunately I knew the reality of that. But yeah, it was just it ain't over until the fat lady sings, and that was kind of my mantra, and unfortunately she sung for me.
Yeah.
So,
And just on that as well with the process, like there are retests and stuff as well.
yeah,
It's not like you go up to do your test, you fail it the first time, and it's like you're gone.
no,
It's you get a few retests, and it's
yeah,
they do that what they can to try to bring you up to the level, but unfortunately, that just happens sometimes, and
yeah.
like an opportunity in disguise sometimes as well. So we'll get into that second attempt in a little bit, but coming home. So that obviously would have been tough. I remember chatting to you. You seemed sort of both ways, pretty down, but also trying to keep a happy face, sort of thing as well, being very positive about it. So yeah, how did you process that setback, and what was your initial reaction actually coming home?
Look, when I was down there, as you said, we definitely did have a few attempts at getting through the weapons assessment. You do go off for retraining, before you get that final. Okay, yeah, you're done. And yeah, for whatever reason, I just couldn't get over the line. This time round. So, in saying that, when I realized I was going home, I again am very lucky that I had an awesome group of people around me who just, embraced me and helped me. Just reminded me that it's all good kind of thing, and I felt very very supported down there. So very lucky there. From the time that I knew that I was going to be returning home, it was a few days where you don't really know when you're going home until they literally pull you out of a session and be like, okay, it's time to go now. So I knew it was probably going to be a good couple of days. And I guess at that point I had two choices. I could sit there and be really upset about the situation and beat myself up about it, which I did in some ways. But the other thing is that I was still there, and I knew full well I was going to come back straight away. Like, that wasn't even a thought in my mind. So I guess my attitude then flipped to, well, I'm still here. I actually don't know how long I'm going to be here for. So let's still make the most of this opportunity while you are still here, and still learn as much as you can, stay in the game, take notes, because I still had to play the game right up until they pulled me out of class. Continue to keep giving it your all to PT, and, you're marching, everything. So I very consciously made that decision to just take what I could get while I was still down there, and I did. And lucky for me, I did have the opportunity to start the first aid module. And I got a good few days into that, which I think definitely helped me the second time round going down. So, and then, I got pulled out of session one afternoon, and I was on my way back. And I'll be honest, the whole experience of not getting through that first time really did shatter me, just because I just didn't think I was going to be the one going home unless I was like seriously injured. I was like, I've got this. And so I guess for that reason, I did find it quite hard to come back, at least for that first week. And I kind of just sat with myself, allowed myself to process. But it was also like, okay, I'm back, game on again. Like within 24 hours, I had spoken to my sergeant at the RIC, and he already had me on the first course back for this year. So that was pretty cool. So I was like, all right, I've already got the ball rolling. Now we just need to like build the momentum and get ready for round 2. So
absolutely awesome. That's a very like competitor type mindset. You can tell, you've grown up doing sports and everything, because that resilience of bouncing back, not letting that sort of thing keep you down. Obviously it's a setback. It's a real kick, in the ass sort of thing. But it's not the end of the day. Like you still got another opportunity. You can still go back. Was there any point, like I know you got a very strong mind, but was there any point at all that you were thinking, like I might as well just not do it anymore? Or did you just have that mindset of this is happening, I just need to fix it?
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've felt like I've let myself down that much. And I think coming from a sporting background, like I know what it's like to take a loss, and a loss when you know how hard you've worked to get to a particular point. So it kind of just felt like that all over again. But again, just thinking back to what is within your control, like, and how am I going to flip this situation that really sucks and really hurts right now into a positive. And I guess the way I had to see it as was, this really sucks and I am absolutely gutted about this, but I also know that this is going to make me a better soldier in the long run. And it's knowing, I guess you got to ask yourself, like, how bad do you want it? Like, is this something that you really want? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we do all sign up for different reasons. But yeah, for me, there was never a doubt I was going to return. It was, if anything, it was probably a little bit like, oh, am I cut out for a combat corps? Because again, I understand that, going into a combat corps, again, especially as a female, it's a hard gig. It's, and I definitely don't want to be there just to make up numbers. I actually want to be really good at my job, and I take a lot of pride in that. And that was probably my only question to myself. But again, it's just
another one of those things you want to prove.
You want to
prove to yourself like you can do it, sort of thing. A lot of perseverance. Like it's very good trait to have, and you can that sort of thing is trained before those setbacks even happen, throughout life, throughout other things that you do. When those setbacks in life happen, that's an opportunity to work on that mindset, to be like, all right, this thing has happened. What can I do to fix it or work around it, or for that thing not to happen again? It's a very good quality to have, and it is trainable 100%.
Yeah. I just think like there's, again, you have a choice in how you're going to approach a setback. Like it's all good to be upset about it. I'm totally, allow yourself to feel that. And I think if you do feel pretty rubbish about, not kind of missing the mark, then I also think that's a good indication that you actually really care about what you're doing as well. So and
you've got expectations on yourself as well, expecting yourself, you should be at that level. Like what can you do to reach that?